I forget all of the girls from Gilligan's Island. And you might have forgotten about football already. Is it possible? It's been almost an entire week since the Super Bowl. We know because we've been counting the seconds on the Mafia Minute. This is where we talk about the Buffalo Bills. I am Magnum Mills, and I am here with Jamie G, who is a damn near founding member of the Bills Mafia, to talk all things Buffalo Bills and to dive into the 2024 offseason. The Mafia Minute is presented by Season Gap Fantasy Football. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Find us on social media at Season Gap FF. Find us at MafiaMinute.com. We are on the web, baby. Please don't forget it, and please don't forget the flaps. Follow, like, and please subscribe. It's all we ask. If you had fun, click that thumb. It just guarantees your place in Bills Mafia. It's reserved that no one can take it away from you. Jamie G, how is the offseason going so far, other than the fact you had to watch the Kansas City Chiefs win the Super Bowl again?
Oh God. Well, I am Jamie G. Esquire the fifth. Bills Mafia. What's up? Great to be here with you guys. Hey, look, the Super Bowl is over. We're not even going to talk about that bullshit. We're not even going to talk about the color red or anything to do with the Kansas City in general. Hell no. I'll go to North Carolina for my barbecue. I don't need Kansas City for nothing. This is all about the Bills, and that's what we're going to do. I'm excited for the offseason, Mills. It was a tough end of the season. Really, really, really hurt losing the divisional round to the Chiefs again. Sucks big time. But you just get the feeling that it's like, man, it's coming. And I think that's where I'm at with it is like the day of beating them and advancing, I think is sooner rather than later. And so for me, I'm staying positive with it, man. This is go time. We really need to have a great offseason here to set ourselves up to be able to win another division title, get home field playoff games. Honestly, we're one or two wins away from having the number one seed last year. It's definitely possible heading into this coming up year. So just got to stay positive, man. Have a great off season, get healthy, and I think sky's the limit for the Bills.
If I didn't know better, I'd almost say that it sounds like you're seeing red, but I don't want to poke the proverbial bull. How about a little Bills on parade here? Any notable news? Any Bills in the news? Anything you want to discuss? I know we're not quite to Josh Allen's birthday. Did have a couple coaching staff, whatnot, things like that. Any Bills on parade? Some Bills news here, Jamie G.
Yeah, look, I didn't expect the Bills to bring in any outside coaches. I think Joe Brady absolutely deserved the offensive coordinator position. And I expected them to kind of hire from within to fill that defensive coordinator. Excited about Bobby Babich. They lost Coach Washington, Eric Washington, who went and became the Chicago Bears defensive coordinator, but I like linebacker coach Bobby Babich stepping up here. He's got great lineage, great bloodline when it comes to coaching defense. And so I'm excited. They brought in a couple other guys that were familiar to McDermott and Bean in Carolina to help out with that defense. So, and then a couple guys from the college ranking. So excited about the coaching moves. It was a fun kind of Pro Bowl. Not that I watched the Pro Bowl, but just seeing some of the Bills. Deion Dawkins was in Vegas for the Walter Payton Man of the Year nominees. He did not win, but it was cool to kind of see him. He let the cat out of the bag a little bit for anybody that was betting on the halftime prop. He let you know that Alicia Keys was going to be part of that halftime show, and no one really knew up until that point. So that was pretty cool. Way for him to throw that out there for us. But really, the highlight for me, Mills, was watching Josh Allen get the best of Tom Brady in golf, and then this past week him partnered up with Tiger Woods and what Tiger Woods had to say about Josh and just a competitor he is and how much respect he has for his game was really cool. When you get two people with champion mindsets and two athletes that compete to the highest possible level, and I know Tiger Woods had all the bad off the greens type stuff, but when you look at what he did, I don't know that there'll ever be a golfer that will achieve that. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. And so, you love if you're a Bills fan, Josh Allen picking his brain and getting the right, answers from him. And I thought that was a really cool article.
JBG went full Godfather there, just like Clemenza in the kitchen talking. I'm like,
Hey, Mikey, why don't you tell that nice girl you love her? I love you with all of my heart. If I don't see you again soon, I'm gonna die.
just make sure you're teaching me how to make a good tomato sauce while you're lamenting your love and whatnot there. I think what we're going to do here is talk about the salary cap and the roster. We're kind of do it in a positional overview type of way. We're just going to go through the positions, kind of talk a little bit about what you might need, who's leaving, and where you might be able to save some money because the Bills are currently $50 million over the salary cap, but the projections are coming in higher than expected. Could be as high as 250 million. So you might already have the NFL doing a little bit of work for you ahead of time. We'll start at quarterback, and it's pretty simple. Right now, your quarterback depth chart consists of one Josh Allen. And he is a prime candidate to either extend or restructure his contract. I think that's obviously going to happen. Probably an extension would be my guess, and even going to give him a little bit of a pay bump in future years. Jamie G, how do you want to see them approach the rest of the quarterback position here? Do you want them to try to bring in a developmental guy, go after a Trey Lance or a Zach Wilson like you did with Trubisky, or go for another just steady hand veteran like you had with Kyle Allen?
Well, I think somebody that contributes to the quarterback room is critical because, look, Josh is Josh and he's great. All that's awesome. But, Joe Brady is going to be, kind of not young at the offensive coordinator position, but, it's not, it's not Bill Callahan, right? I mean, he's definitely got some youth to him. So I think having somebody in that quarterback room that can be kind of a player's coach would be really crucial. Obviously, Kyle Allen and Josh Allen are friends off the field, and that's how he found himself there last season. I expect him to do something similar like that. A developmental QB3 would be a very nice luxury, but I cannot see us devoting roster space to that position right now. I just don't see it, man. We got too many other things that we need. So I think a solid number two that can play in a pinch, but more importantly, offers, a different perspective and different eyes off the field as a player's coach is crucial for that role.
So that doesn't sound like bringing back Trubisky, at least.
I don't think so, but look, they really liked Mitch Trubisky and thought he was a great asset to the team. A guy who started a bunch of games. He earned his shot with Pittsburgh. It didn't work. Would it surprise me? No, but I would rather they probably go in a different direction. But I'm not too concerned about backup quarterback. I mean, if Josh Allen gets hurt, I don't think the Bills can. It would be like if Patrick Mahomes gets hurt, I don't think anybody's thinking the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, it's just anytime you have a star quarterback.
They did win a game with like Chad Henne and Blaine Gabbert over the years. The one guy who might, I guess, make sense and check all the boxes and might fit your cost range, could Tyrod Taylor come home?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that at all, man. I wouldn't.
If he's done kind of trying to chase, a job where he might get at least a crack at the starting game, if he's willing to just accept being a backup, he's probably not going to cost a lot. We saw him play pretty effectively. His main problem is getting injured, which prevents him from holding down his starting job. So I think he would be, if he's willing to do it, a very interesting guy to add to the mix there. I think that would be kind of helpful. And that's about what I got on that one. Let's move over to running back. James Cook is definitely the lock here, headed into year 3 of his rookie deal. You still have Nyheim Hines on the books for almost $5.5 million. You can cut him. Dead cap hits only about $500K, so he's almost guaranteed to be cut unless he just restructures to the minimum. I guess that's not impossible, but other than that, that's pretty much it for your running back depth chart. You have a couple pieces still on there. I think Darrington Evans is still under contract. I know you like Ty Johnson. Probably won't be expensive. Maybe you could use a day 3 pick on a running back, but I don't think you're going there, in the first 4 rounds or anything, right? So how do you expect the Bills to approach the running back position here?
I expect Nyheim Hines not to come back. I think he gets outright cut. And that's a shame because I think they had high hopes for him. I wasn't huge on the trade when it happened. He did have the punt returns or kick returns that one year or whatever, and that was great. But I think he let a lot of people down last year with the ski injury and water ski injury and whatnot. But needless to say, I think he's gone. James Cook is a guy, but look, the Bills used 3 running backs almost on the regular last season when Joe Brady took over. So Ty Johnson, in my opinion, earns the right to be kind of the 1B or in the rotation. And then I expect him to either get, a combination of a veteran piece like a Latavius Murray or somebody that can come in on the cheap, that adds a lot of value, that they trust on third down, that's a locker room guy. I think that could be big. And then maybe look to add a piece in the draft somewhere in, rounds 4 through 7 or something like that. But I think this team showed you that they're going to run the football, and they're going to do it with multiple running backs. James Cook is going to be the guy, but they're going to sprinkle in some other guys throughout the course of the season. So I think that they're not done adding to that position yet.
Any chance that now this is the offseason where you add Delvin Cook because he'll cost probably next to nothing now? I mean, you brought long, like you brought in Uncle Lenny. I don't know if he's a guaranteed, but
It's James Cook's team. I don't see it happening, but I think there's other options.
Singletary and Moss are both out there on the market too. Would there be any chance either of them coming home? Especially if they don't check in that high. Singletary, I'm expecting will probably be at least looking for, I don't know, 3 or 4 million. Zach Moss, I don't know. Despite having a couple of effective weeks there, I don't know if he's going to get much more than the minimum from anybody.
Yeah, it's possible Zach comes back home. I mean, I love Motor. I think the Bills need a different style running back though, and that's I look for a guy like, man, I would love like a big bruising type back. I think would be huge for him if they could find that from a veteran standpoint.
3 words for you, baby. A.J. Dillon.
Yeah,
It's going to happen finally. It's going to happen for the Bills. You're going to make it happen. It could be, baby. And, shout out Carl Weathers. He was Dillon in Predator.
Dillon! You son of a bitch.
Let's move over to wide receiver, where Stephon Diggs is literally the sun here. Everything revolves around him. If he stays, you almost have to restructure him, which is just going to increase his future cap charge, but it's wild how much it is. You really can't trade him unless he restructures, and you can't even cut him unless you're going to designate him as a post-June 1st cut. It's still just going to be a mess. I'd say Khalil Shakir is the only roster lock here. Deontay Hardy is a cap hit over $5.5 million. You can free up about $4 million in cap space if you cut him. I think Justin Shorter, the rookie who didn't play last year, probably makes the roster as long as he's halfway decent, because he's got next to nothing as a cap hit and you don't have a lot of depth there. What do you think you're going to do, man? You can comment on Diggs if you want. I understand if you just want to be like, we have to wait and see. But outside of that, the Bills are widely expected to draft a wide receiver in round 1. Are you cool with that? Is that the way you'd like him to go? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Khalil Shakir is definitely a roster lock, and I think Diggs is too. I mean, again, we're entering an offseason where he doesn't do himself a lot of favors how he communicates, but it's just going to be a thing with him where it's going to be constantly speculation on, is he happy? Is he leaving? Is he want out? Blah, blah, blah. All this crap. I think he's been clear that he wants to retire a Bill. He said it a million times, but I think he's overly frustrated with having to constantly say it. So it becomes a story based on his actions more than it probably should be. I think he's ultimately there. I don't know that he is going to get restructured, because I think the Bills would like a way out next year. But I think no matter what, he's there this year, and that's just what it is. Outside of that, I think Hardy, again, nice job on special teams here and there, but I think he probably gets cut. I'm excited about Justin Shorter. We didn't really get a chance to see him. He's got almost a DK Metcalf like frame and ability. Really excited to see what he does. Outside of that, Mills, I think they need to take a wide receiver in round 1. This is the year to do it. There's a ton of talent where they're drafting in the back half of round 1, in the mid-20s there. There's gonna be somebody that falls. They're not gonna get Marvin Harrison Jr. or the kid out of Washington or whatever, but there's a lot of talent that they can still get there on the back half of that draft. I think that is one key need that they need to look at the draft for. So, they've shown that they can get guys in there with Gabe Davis in the 4th, and Khalil Shakir, I think, was also a 4th round pick. Shorter was a 5th or 6th round pick. So I think they go to the draft. I think they go high this year. I think they go offense round 1 again, like last year, and this time it's a wide receiver.
I don't know that they would go back-to-back wide receivers, but it definitely wouldn't shock me to see him take 2 in the first 3 rounds at this point.
Yeah.
You need the depth. You need to plan for life past Diggs, and wide receivers are expensive on the free agent market. One of the best ways to alleviate that is with rookie contracts. So I think it might make sense. This might be the time you take a couple of swings at the position, or at least maybe the 1st and the 4th round, something like that. So
you look at what Green Bay did. Green Bay, they just kept adding wide receivers through the draft, and they were for a minute it was like, they're young and who's all these guys, and then out of nowhere it was just like, oh shit, they got a lot of talent at the wide receiver position, and it's all young. And I think that's what the Bills have to do this year, is draft well, not just at wide receiver, but this is a key position.
Yeah, and know that you're going to throw some darts and you're not going to hit them all. I mean, look at the Chiefs. Sky Moore didn't work, Kadarius Toney didn't work, and they finally got there with their 3rd try on Rashee Rice. So it's not always a given in their 2nd, 3rd round wide receivers, but this appears to be one of the best wide receiver classes in recent history, it definitely has a chance to break the record for wide receivers going in round one. So I think that's the only thing you have to hope against is that there's a crazy run where there's 6 off the board before 20 or something. I don't think that'll happen, but we will save that for a later episode. Let's move over to tight end, where obviously your man, the dude running the Roadhouse, Dalton Kincaid, is locked in. But his the other double D there, Dawson Knox, has a cap hit over 14 million and a dead cap hit over 20 million. So that means that you can't really get a positive number out of him unless you're going to trade him. You could restructure, kick the can down the road, or ask him to take a pay cut, or release him as a post June 1st cut. I don't know, man. Does it really come down to just how bad does Knox want to be a number one tight end? How bad does he want to remain on the Bills? And I don't know that he can get near this money from anywhere else.
He can't. And look, man, his brother died. The Bills gave him a contract. He earned it. Like, he played well, but he's just not what Dalton Kincaid is or what other premier. He's fine, but he's not going to be a guy that can give you 6, 7, 8 catches a game. He's kind of a red zone target. He'll get his 3 targets, 3 catches, maybe 30 yards and a TD is a great game for him. Nothing wrong with that. He also does a lot in the blocking aspect of the game. It's nice having both of them out there. I think he wants to be a Bill so badly, and he wants to play with Josh Allen so badly. He loves this franchise, city, and fan base so badly that it wouldn't surprise me at all that he does a little bit of a hometown discount here and restructures and or helps shave a little bit of money off. I think he's definitely a candidate that's willing to do something to stay and make the team better. I really think he is, man. Just knowing the type of person he is, and he's a humble dude, man. Like, I could see it happening. So I love Dawson Knox as a person. I think he wants to be there. I can't see him wanting to play. No amount of money makes him want to play someplace else. You love that about him. I think he'll willing to do whatever he can do within reason to help the team.
Yeah, my guess is they approach his representation and kind of explain the deal. They'll understand probably that this is coming given his cap number, the situation they're in, and maybe they even let him shop himself around. If you want to go out there and see if anybody be interested in trading for you or anybody be interested in paying you near this level, then let him see. And maybe he finds something. But if he doesn't, and I don't think he will, that would probably make him more amenable to coming back to the Bills and probably leaving some money on the table to do so. And you still will have to add a little bit of depth at the position, although you were really, really thin at tight end this year, and you saw it come out a couple of times. So might need to restock a little bit there.
Wouldn't surprise me to get a cheap guy someplace or a developmental guy.
At least Smith's still out there. Mercedes Lewis is still kicking around. So you always got a couple of them boys. You do have a pair of bookend offensive tackles. They are locked in, but unfortunately, they are both unrestricted free agents after the season. Spencer Brown is going to be coming off of his rookie deal. Dawkins will be coming off his extension. He has a $16.6 million cap number, but an extension could keep him around and lower that. And I would say overall, you just want some depth here and maybe, try to find a guy in the mid rounds that you could develop as kind of your swing tackle, your primary backup there. Any thoughts on either of these guys? And do you think we see any of these extensions get done sooner than later?
I think one of these two guys gets extended, if not both. I really do. Spencer Brown, he was finally healthy last year. And man, he played. I think he was as good of a right tackle as I watched play consistently throughout the season. And I think this was year 2 in Aaron Kromer, offensive line coach. And I expect this offensive line to get better, knowing how much value McDermott and Bean place on the offensive and defensive line, particularly the continuation and familiarity within the offensive line. They're going to want to do what they got to do here. And I think it's also a way to potentially save some money is to, especially with Dawkins, is to get him done. And then, with Spencer Brown, I think he's earned the right to remain. So it wouldn't surprise me one or both of these guys gets done.
Nice. Then we'll stick right there on the offensive line. Just move inward to the guards, and you look like you're pretty set there. You have Connor McGovern and Osiris Torrance locked in. McGovern, you can actually just do a simple restructuring, free up about $2 million in cap space there. I would expect that to happen. Osiris Torrance is just going into the second year of his rookie deal. So pretty much you're just looking to maybe add some depth. You still are carrying Ryan Bates. If you designate him as a post-June 1st cut, that'll free up about $4 million. So I would expect that to probably happen unless he takes a pay cut. Any thoughts here other than, you do probably need to add a little bit of depth?
Yeah, a little bit of depth. And they got some guys that they were working on last year. I think, the interesting thing with Bates is he actually can back up Morse. So I know we haven't gotten to center yet, but if they decide to do something with Morse, if he doesn't, maybe if he's not willing to maybe do something different with his contract, he made it clear he doesn't want to play for anyone else, and he's going to be there as long as the Bills will have him. It'll be interesting to see if he's made a ton of money throughout his career, both with Kansas City and with Buffalo. It'll be interesting to see if he's willing to do something here or not. But it wouldn't, if they get rid of Mitch Morris, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me to keep Bates as competition for that starting center position.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, Morris is 32 years old. He's got a cap hit over 11 million. If you designate him as a post June 1st cut, that frees up almost 8.5 million. And again, we're talking you're at least probably 42 million over or something. And there's not that many big numbers out there if you're not going to touch the Diggs contract. So I do think Morris is probably the guy that, he might have to take a pay cut, I think, is probably what it comes down to, right?
Yeah, I think so. And there's been a lot. The guy's had a ton of concussions. Like he's been very good. You love him. He's the dad of the offensive line. But I wanted the Bills to draft a center last year. They didn't. I think that's a position they have to draft this year and find a replacement for Mitch Morse. Because even if he plays this year, you got to believe that's probably it.
For what it's worth, it seems that every year there's an all-world center that goes in round 2. That it seems to be a spot where you can still get, again, with the guards to round 2, round 3. I think you can still find a solid guy in that range. Or maybe it's a case where, Morris winds up leaving, you keep Bates around, he's the starter initially at center, and then maybe the rookie takes over, halfway through the season, that kind of deal, something like that. Let's move over to the defense, to the edge rushers. And Jamie G, after drafting all these guys for years, the cupboard's a little bit bare all of a sudden, right? You have Greg Rousseau. I assume he'll be under contract through 2025 after the Bills pick up his 5th-year option. And you have Von Miller. Nobody is trading for him. Literally, your only option would be to designate him as a post-June 1st cut. That would save almost $7 million in salary cap. That would save almost $7 million in salary cap space for this year, but then you'd be carrying a charge of over $15 million for him in 2025. So I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze. What do you think they're going to do here? They have to do something, and I don't know that they're going to have a lot of money to do it.
They're not. I mean, this is an interesting thing here. Rousseau definitely has to play. I think the free agents, they're going to pick up his 5th-year option. They kind of have to. They can't really do much with Von Miller. I think your best bet is to just keep him and hope he comes back healthy and he's 80% of what he was when he got, before he got hurt, or 90% of what he was before he got hurt, which was putting together a pretty damn good season, his first, 7-8 games in Buffalo. So I think that's the hope there. If nothing else, he's an outstanding locker room guy and a player's coach. You have to just deal with it. You paid him. That's what it is. I don't think they can afford Leonard Floyd. The interesting one is AJ Epinesa. I know we'll get to some free agents here in a little bit, but edge is a position that they absolutely have to address. Really, the defensive line in general is a position that they absolutely have to address.
Yeah, because it doesn't get much deeper when you move over to D-tackle. I mean, you have Ed Oliver. You can save about $1.5 million if you restructure him, but that's about it, man. You definitely need just quality depth all over the line, I think. And, it's probably going to have to be a combination of free agents and some rookies here. But if, you don't have 4 second-round picks or something like that, so it feels like, maybe one of the first 2 picks goes to the D-line probably, and the other one's a wide receiver. That feels kind of like how it probably shakes out, unless the draft, the value falls and changes a little bit, right?
I think so. I think the edge, D tackle, and wide receiver are the 3 biggest needs, and it's also it's a good year for all 3 of them. There's some great defensive tackles in this draft, and there's some solid edge rushers. So I think they find a way. It wouldn't surprise me for Bean to work his way into 2 second-round picks, and he gets three players at the 3 positions they need in those first 2 rounds. That wouldn't surprise me at all. I also think that there's some guys that are willing to stick around on vet minimum deals here for rotational pieces. I think Taquan Jones sticks around with a low contract coming off that pec injury, knowing what this defense can be with him in it. So I think there's still some guys that they can get on the cheap that'll be veteran guys that Sean McDermott's not going to roll out there with an all rookie defensive front. He's just not. There's going to be veteran guys on that line that know the system that he can count on. So I think this is, that's part of the plan here, but no question, D-line needs a lot of work, man.
It won't be all rookies. It'll be all guys off the couch. That's how it works now. Everybody is coming off of the couch, not out of school. Let's move over to linebacker, where obviously the return of Matt Milano is going to be a major boost to that unit, and you can save at least $2 million with a basic restructuring of his contract. And you also got some kind of nice depth pieces you found here in Terrell Bernard. Dorian Williams still could be a developmental option going into his second year. Any thoughts on the linebacker position? Do you think this is kind of going to be the core? Do you think they're going to try to make at least kind of some kind of semi-serious ad here? Or do you think it's just going to be moving pieces around the edges a little bit?
I think the combination of Matt Milano and the way Terrell Bernard played last season without having Matt Milano next to him, calling all the shots, having to understand the defense, it is extremely encouraging to the Bills and to Bills fans to be able to say, man, well, now, as well as you played, you got Matt Milano coming back next to you. That is a outstanding linebacking core. And people can say it's small, it's whatever. Nah, dude, that is a very, very good linebacking core with Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano. And both those guys, I think, are 3rd and 5th round picks, respectfully. Really like that a lot. The interesting thing will be what they decide to do with Terrell Dodson, whether or not he gets a big deal someplace or if he comes back kind of on a vet minimum. I think if he does, they'd love to have him back as a depth piece. But it wouldn't surprise me, for 5th, 6th, 7th round, they draft a guy that's a special teams guy, and maybe he can play, maybe he can't. I like where we're at with Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard as our 2 linebackers.
I am right there with you. Let's move over to corner, where you have a bunch of decisions coming up, be they good, bad, interesting, or not. Right off the top, you have Tre'Davious White. If you cut him straight up, you gain about $6 million in cap space. It's $10 million after it's post June 1st. There's also the chance they go to him, and you have a major kind of pay cut restructuring situation where they acknowledge that he might not be playing for a while. Maybe he never plays again. So I think there's a lot in flux there. You've got 2 big contributors in their final years of their deal. Teron Johnson, an extension for him is not going to be cheap, but at least it would knock down his 2024 cap number a bit. And it's the final season of Rasul Douglas's deal after we traded for him. He's got a cap hit of $9 million, but there is 0 dead cap hit. So if they wanted to cut him, it'd be a free, not free, but it'd be $9 million because they traded for him. And again, another guy, if you extend him, it is going to cut his cap number this year down quite a bit. And Karier Alam is pretty much a sunk cost at this point. If you could trade him post June 1st, you'd free up about $2 million in cap space. Anything else is going to be negative cap space. So I guess that insurance will be on the roster, right?
Probably. I just don't see a way to get out of it. I mean, I think Rasul Douglas did enough to earn a spot there. And really, it's similar to the wide receiver position where it revolves around Diggs. It kind of revolves around what they do with Tre'Davious White here. Could he retire? Does he have it in him after coming back from that ACL to now come back from an Achilles? I don't know, man. We'll see.
I mean, a retirement will have the same cap impact basically as retiring. Insurance will pay some of the cash or whatever, but from a cap standpoint, him retiring really doesn't help you, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I hear you. But you could get 10 million, if it's after June 1st, right? So I mean,
right, and I do think there is a chance if he thinks he's going to try to come back, where they sign him to one of these 2-year deals where he gets a little guaranteed money this year with the idea that he probably doesn't play. Maybe he just gets his feet wet at the end of the year, and then he's under contract next year. The plus is he gets to keep a little bit extra guaranteed money. The plus for the Bills is they would get a look at him for 2025 as a potential bargain if he's able to come back. You see that kind of deal sometimes with players. Again, second major injury in Achilles. I would be, if he sets foot on the field, it's after Thanksgiving again. Would not surprise me at all if he's out for the entirety of 2024. And if he's going to take that kind of deal, I don't know why he would take it from another team. You know what I mean? So it does seem like it's pretty much going to lock him into Buffalo or nothing, because I don't think he's just going to go somewhere else to sign for the minimum or what have you.
I don't either. Taron Johnson is absolutely a critical piece of the defense.
I mean, a second team All-Pro, right? I mean, he's not going to be cheap.
He's not, but it could potentially save some money this year. So again, that's a big decision. I think Rasul Douglas earned the right to stay. He wants to stay. Obviously, they got to figure out a way to make it work. And then, Saran Neal is another one. He's mostly a special teamer, but he is a depth player here, and he found himself in the lineup occasionally. If Teron Johnson goes out, Saran Neal comes in for him. So he's essentially his backup. I'd be surprised if they cut him just because of what he contributes in special teams, and you have to have special teams. So I think he's almost a lock to stay too. It wouldn't surprise me if maybe an extension for him as well.
Yeah, that would probably make sense. His cap number is, higher than you would want for a guy at that depth, but probably in line for one of your core special teams guys. Finish up in the secondary. Micah Hyde's a free agent. Jordan Poyer in the final year of that extension. I don't think you'd do it, but if you cut him, you'd free up about $5.5 million. You also have DeMar Hamlin and Kendall Williamson under contract with cap hits in the $1 million range. What do you think, man? Is it Jordan Poyer hold it down next to somebody else next year, or is there a chance their entire safety core looks different?
There is. I think they don't want that. Micah Hyde, I just don't know that he's going to be able to get the money elsewhere. I think, honestly, he might retire. Knowing Sean McDermott, I think he'd probably value having a veteran like Jordan Poyer that knows his system with plugging in either a Taylor Rapp or somebody else at the opposite spot. I think it would be tough to have two brand new safeties. He did it, obviously, the first year he came to Buffalo. He had two brand new safeties in there, but I know how much this defense values interchangeable safeties. It would be tough to have two brand new ones in there, but they're in a spot here, man, defensively with the cap where they've got to make some tough decisions.
And unfortunately, Poyer has struggled to stay on the field the past couple of years. So this might be another spot where, again, because he's in the last year of his deal, you probably could do something with a restructured / extension. If he decides he kind of wants to finish it out, but the Bills would still probably want a fairly reasonable way to get out of the deal for next year. But you're at the point where you start to have to, selectively kicking the can down the road a little bit. Special teams, might as well touch on them. You could say about $1 million if you move on from punter Sam Martin. You're pretty much locked into Tyler Bass. The only thing you could possibly do is designate him as a post June 1st cut. You really wouldn't gain any cap money. You just pay him and gain the option to maybe move on to a different kicker. And your long snapper is making about $1 million. So that's pretty much the special teams. You're not spending a ton on it other than T Bass, but you're pretty much locked into him. So I guess just get a new punter and hope for the best, maybe.
Yeah, look, I think T Bass bounces back. It was a bad year. Buffalo will rally around him. I think he bounces back, has a better year. Sam Martin's interesting. At times down the stretch, he punted really well up until he had the hamstring injury there in the playoffs. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do with special teams here. Reed Ferguson's been a great long snapper for a long time in Buffalo. So we'll see, man. I don't know that this is the part of the meat that you can pick here to create the most savings, but we'll see. It wouldn't surprise me if it's all status quo heading into next season.
That's fair. It's funny too. It's harder than you think to find a punter. Yeah, there's so many, right? There's hundreds of punters in college. Very few teams have the same punter for like 3 years. There's not a lot of continuity at the position. So that wouldn't shock me to see you kind of stick with it and at least keep one unit pretty constant, because there's going to be a lot of changes. And there's going to be a lot of changes because there are some notable free agents that could be on their way out of Western New York. What we did here is we listed the major free agents, and we had Jamie G rank them. He ranked them in terms of how much he wanted to keep them, and then he ranked them in terms of a prediction how likely he thought it will be that the Bills keep these players. We're going to start out at the bottom. There's a few players that it pretty much looked like you don't think they're going to keep them, and you weren't particularly high on keeping them. Gabe Davis definitely near the bottom. Latavius Murray, Tim Settle, the D tackle, and a little bit of a surprise here, Terrell Dodson. Kind of came in low on your want and your will. So I know you mentioned him a touch, just doesn't look like it's going to line up to keep him around.
He was ranked really high. I would love it if he doesn't get money in the free agent market. He wants to, after starting all last year and playing pretty well, I think he wants to go and be a starter someplace. If he doesn't get that type of money, I could see him coming back on kind of a vet deal as a backup and a rotational player. But I would love to see it. I just think they got bigger fish to fry, man.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to see him get something that the contract Kaiser White got when he left the Eagles last year under similar circumstances. 3 years, 15 million, 16 million, something in that range. Probably a little bit too much for the Bills to reasonably afford. Micah Hyde, again, you're not dying to have him back, but you wouldn't hate it, but you really don't think it'll happen. One guy you desperately would love to have back, the second guy that you wanted him back second most of any of the free agents, but you think he's the least likely to return, and that is defensive lineman Leonard Floyd. Just played himself out of the Bills' price range, I guess.
Yeah, and he made it clear he wants to get paid. I mean, the dude, I think he led the team in sacks last year or close to it. I thought he was outstanding. When that defense was healthy, he was absolute dominant and he performed all season long. I think he's a great pass rusher. The way our defense is built, he fits perfectly. It sucks that our defense got so banged up last year. We only really saw 4 or 5 weeks of it in its prime, and it was outstanding and dominant in those 4 or 5 weeks. Then injuries hit. I just don't think there's any way they can afford him, man. He's going to get big money. There's not a team out there with money that's not like, yeah, we'll pay a guy for 10 sacks. And that's what he does. He gets double-digit sacks virtually every year. So
Him and Jadeveon Clowney are just going around, just doing 1-year deals every year with a different team for like the last half a decade. And for the most part, it's worked out for them and the teams. That leaves us with 5 guys that you think there's definitely a reasonable chance that the Bills could bring back, that you would like them to bring back. At safety, Taylor Rapp. I don't think he's going to get a huge deal, probably not a long contract, maybe just a 2-year deal, but might be in that $4 or $5 million a year range. Is that something you think you could afford to put him next to Jordan Poyer, or do you think you can only bring Rapp back if you move on from Poyer and Hyde?
no, I think he can come back. He knows the system. He played well last year. I think Hyde's going to retire, and it wouldn't surprise me if Hyde retires and becomes like a coach on Sean McDermott's staff. I could definitely see that happening maybe next year or something. But I think he's going to retire, man. So you got to fill it with somebody. Why not fill it with somebody who was in the system, was in the locker room last year, and was part of their playoff run?
I think that makes a ton of sense. Maybe the most interesting case on the list, pass rusher AJ Epinesa. He's hitting free agency at only 25 years old. It had a good year, but is not really been a very consistent player for a long time. Probably not going to get a real long-term contract, but I would expect he's going to at least get call it 5 million a year on a 2 to 3 year deal with a fair amount of guaranteed money in there. Is that a ballpark you think you could operate in when it comes to bringing back Epinesa?
I think it's going to be hard. I think Bean values players he drafted. AJ Epinesa was a draft pick. We didn't have a first round pick that year. He was our first pick in the second, and he's matured and developed into a good player. He's part of a rotation, so he doesn't get the snap count. But when he was on the field, there's games he disappears, but he made a lot of impact plays this year. You'd love to keep him around, man. I just worry he's going to price himself out, but I would love to retain young talent that we developed on the defensive line, especially at the pass rush situation.
Yeah, I think that would be huge. It'd be a nice success story for the team too. After kind of not lighting the world on fire, kind of a similar career path to Ed Oliver. Let's be honest, right? I mean, Ed Oliver
Yeah.
was a highly regarded draft pick, and he really took a while. But once he got there, he's really hit. So that's the thing. Maybe if you had to offer Epinesa, guarantees into a 3rd year or something, you do it on a gamble that maybe he is going to break out, and the contract winds up being a bargain, and he doesn't have quite as high of a cap hit this year. One guy you think you very much might be able to bring back is cornerback Dane Jackson, 27, more of a depth piece, probably not going to get more than a 1-year deal on the free agent market. Do you bring him back no matter what, or does it depend on what you do with your other moves at the cornerback position?
I think it depends on what we do with Rasul Douglas. If he stays, Christian Benford has earned the right, I think, to be, a starting corner for this defense. And if you bring back Rasul Douglas, I really like those two, but you still got to have somebody because injuries, man. So I think they bring him back, dude, especially because he knows the system. He's played fine when given the opportunity. He started some games. I just think he fits well into the system. So I think he comes back, especially on like that 1-year deal. I just don't know that he's a guy that I don't see going out in the free agent market and getting, a million different offers. So I could see that happening a little bit more likely than some of these other guys.
And that'll probably hold true for the next guy here. You think he's the most likely to be retained? That's running back Ty Johnson, 27 years old. He's not going to get more than a 1-year deal. Let's just be honest. Probably pretty close to the minimum. Played pretty well for the Bills. Kind of seems like a no-brainer, right? Unless he's somehow priced out of the market for you.
Yeah, which I don't think he will be. And I think honestly, he's looking at it as like, man, I put together another year like that. I'm going to get playing time. I'm going to be on a should be a winning football team. I got a great quarterback. I just think it's one of the best locations for him. So for me, I think that they can easily make that happen and not get into a bidding war for him. I just don't think they're, because of what the position is. And again, he proved it last year. He earned it. He knows the system. Joe Brady likes him. It just kind of makes too much sense for me.
Right. And all things being equal, even if it's, Dallas and Kansas City are offering him the same deal, I would think he would probably stick with Buffalo, right? I mean, I don't think he would be, changing teams unless someone is going to significantly offer him more money or playing time. Guaranteed. And
Yep.
the final guy here, Daquan Jones. He is the guy you most want to retain. You ranked him fourth in the will retains. You think there is a chance. 32 years old at D tackle. So again, probably not going to get a multi-year deal, but probably going to get something maybe in the range of what you gave Floyd, call it 1 year, 5 to 7 million, something like that. Do you think you can find that money in the couch cushions for him?
I think they're going to have to. Look, he was absolutely dominant. It's not sexy. It doesn't show up. The dude was dominant. When he's healthy and you have him and Ed Oliver on your interior, that is a very good interior defensive front. And I just think that he's a guy that, because of the pec injury, it could benefit the Bills in terms of what he demands in the open market. And I think he wants to be back there. He's a Western New York native, grew up a Bills fan. It's just one of those things where it's like, I think he wants to finish the job and win a Super Bowl, and he wants to do it with the Buffalo Bills. I don't know that he's going to get a better opportunity anywhere else. He knows the system. Coach McDermott loves him. Like, he's a dude. He came back off a pec injury mid-season. Like, he's a dog, dude. Like, I think they got to find a way to bring him back, man. I'll be hurt if they don't.
I like, and I figured the hometown discount's worth about 3 million here or something, the way you were saying. Is that what you were going for? You're a
That's what I'm
little
hoping
bit of the
for.
hard sell. You might have come in a little bit too strong. So work on that on your next pass. And I think that about does it for this, unless you have anything else. We are going to come back to a little bit of a free agency preview where maybe we'll start wish casting a little bit, see what kind of space you could open up, what you could do with it, that kind of thing. Jamie G, anything else before I remind everybody about the whatnot?
Yeah, just, obviously as news breaks and things happen, we're going to start to see it over the next couple of weeks here. We'll be back to update you on what's going on and what our thoughts are. I just think really this is the time where teams that have done a good job building a winning program, this is where they need to earn their money in the front office, and management decisions need to be made that are key. And the goals this offseason for the Bills are, number one, they gotta win the draft. They've got to put together at least 3 contributors and starters on this team somehow, some way, when they leave that weekend in April with the draft. Like, they've got to do that, man. And they've got to be able to add not only 3 starters, but some depth pieces that can contribute on special teams and be waiting in the wings, so to speak, in the years to follow. Number 2, they've got to be able to continue to find good deals like they did this past season. Leonard Floyd was a cheap option there, and he gave us double-digit sacks. You got to be able to find some cheap, reliable veterans to come in and plug holes on this team. And I think they've shown the ability to do that. I'm confident they can continue to. Number 3, get healthy, man. Get healthy. Get guys healthy. And that's the biggest thing for, they do those 3 things. I think we'll figure out a way through this. Every good team that's paying a quarterback and other key stars has a similar problem, and that's the salary cap. So do those 3 things, and I think the Bills are going to be fine.
I will go ahead and be so bold as to add on a 4th thing. Once you get healthy, try staying healthy. But it's one thing to get healthy, but I think the staying healthy is very important. It's kind of like sci-fi. It's not about necessarily making the reservation. It's about holding the reservation. So hopefully you can get back to full health. Then you need to maintain it. And this has been a fully healthy episode of the Mafia Minute presented by CZGAP Fantasy Football. Once again, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube, on social media at CZGAPFF, on the web at MafiaMinute.com. It's not that much to remember. You can handle it. I think you can also handle remembering the flaps. Follow, like, and please subscribe. I keep saying it. It must be important. It truly is. If you had fun, please remember, hit that thumb. I'm Magnum Mills. He's Jamie G, and he is going to get you hyped for the 2024 Buffalo Bills season. It's already started.
There is no off season, baby, because you know what? Hey, the Bills make me want to shout. Stay here. Stay with us. Let's get ready. It's going to be a great season. We'll catch you next time. Go Bills.
Go jump in the pit.
Feed the
We're
pit.
still jumping in the pit, dude. Just jumping
You
in
gotta
the
feed
pit.
the pit, bro. You gotta feed the pit.